The presidency says terrorist activity using propaganda and the use of violence to force governments to accept or submit to political demands is not new all over the world. In a statement, Senior Special Assistant to the President, Garba noted that the country's security and defense forces are not clueless or helpless with plans, ways of doing things which they will not display in the media. The statement says that terrorism is a global scourge that must be fought by all actors, the military, the civilian population, and the communication service providers. This is the only way safe havens with terrorists are eliminated in every part of the world to help the nation against the situation. And the media must increase their support for the fight against the exploitation of the internet and social media for terrorist purposes. The presidency reassures the public that the president has done all and even more than what is expected of him as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and we are boosting the morale and material and equipment support to the military and expects nothing short of good results in the immediate. Minister of Defense Major General Bashir Magashi says Nigerian Navy has been adequately repositioned in infrastructure and capacity building and tax batch 32 trainees at the Nigerian Navy College want to apply knowledge acquired towards responding to national security challenges. Details with Kinsley and Majuri.
The Nigerian Navy is not only acquiring more platforms and enhancing its infrastructure, but also growing its manpower base for effective service delivery. This 1008 batch 32 trainees are joining the Nigerian Navy after a 6 months training. Minister of Defense Major General Magashi, retired, said the integrated efforts by the Nigerian Navy in capacity development and infrastructural acquisition are targeted at making Nigerian Navy assert its authority across the nation's maritime.
I am optimistic that the induction of NNS cadre in the fleet will further consolidate the deterrence capability of the Nigerian Navy against maritime crimes and illegalities within our maritime domain and by extension to Gulf of Guinea.
He said the establishment of new naval bases and joint exercises with other foreign naval forces would further help to improve Nigerian Navy efficiency. In the last 6 months, the ratings were thoroughly trained in academic and physical combat exercises. Outstanding trainees were honored at the passing out parade. In One, Rivers State, I'm Kingsley Amajiri, NTA News.
A civilian joint task force, a group of combatant civilians presently assisting security forces in the crackdown of insurgents in the Northeast, is offering to extend its services to the Northwest. And the group in a conference in Abuja says the success recorded in the Northeast can be replicated in the zone if given the opportunity. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports.
The Civilian Joint Task Force is a group of combatant civilians fighting alongside security forces in the counter-insurgency operations in the Northeast. It was established in 2013 as a grassroots approach to securing intelligence for security forces and later transformed into a full combatant group fighting alongside troops. The force is now offering to extend its services northwest, ravaged by banditry and terrorism.
The Nigerian military's operation against the insurgency and kidnapping currently taking place in Kaduna, Niger, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Katsina requires similar approach of military operatives and civilians.
The proposal to extend services westward depends on the approval of state governors. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
With many decades of gainful bilateral relations spanning cultural and economic ties between them, Nigeria and Brazil are on the quest to achieve more together, holding each other's hands in military cooperation. Consular General of the Republic of Brazil to Nigeria, Ambassador Francisco Carlos Luz, expressed this optimism at the Western Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy, where a visiting Brazilian naval ship is set for a joint drill and sea exercises. Adeni Taiwo brings us details.
A big part of the Atlantic Ocean, which incidentally borders both Nigeria and the Republic of Brazil, the Gulf of Guinea, and its 2.35 million kilometers square of water, is a common patrimony for many coastal nations, and securing it a joint task for all of them. Coming barely 10 months after its naval frigate, the Independencia, dropped anchor at the shores of Lagos waters on a port visit, this port call by Brazilian naval ship Oniao further underscores the importance of the waters and Nigeria's dominant role in securing it. To do this better, Consular General of Brazil to Nigeria, Ambassador Francisco Carlos Luz, told his host that both countries must leverage their old socio-cultural ties to forge stronger military relations.
And this is helping in growing, training, participating in joint operations. I think this is quite positive for both countries. And so we are...
Naval Command, Rear Admiral Yakubu Wambai, says this one offers opportunities for peer review.
They are here now. By October, hopefully there will be another exercise, another ship will be coming. Just continue to foster the synergy that we've had right from time of independence.
A total of 5 Nigerian naval ships will be participating in the joint drills with the visiting ship in Lagos. Adeni Taiwo, NTA News.
8 persons have been arrested for attempting to import hundreds of cocaine pellets into Nigeria through the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Enugu and Lagos airports. In a statement, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency says some illicit substances concealed in a consolidated cargo going to Dubai were confiscated, with no fewer than 4 freight agents arrested in connection with the seizure. Meanwhile, 10 suspects were arrested in Kaduna, Abuja, Sokoto, and Anambra states for being in possession of quantum of illicit substances. As part of efforts to secure places of worship and worshippers amid the current spate of insecurity across Nigeria, pastors and leaders of churches from Niger, Nasarawa State and the Federal Capital Territory have been trained on best ways to secure the church, their families and other parishioners in Abuja. Tanis Obetere reports.
Disaster and risk management, the spate of kidnapping and other forms of insecurity, particularly at worship centers in recent times, informs the summit initiative by the RCCG Redemption Chaplaincy International Corps for pastors and church ministers. James Adegbite, an RCCG pastor in Nasarawa, who is in his early 50s, says the summit is not only apt, but an eye-opener for safety and security measures needed at worship centers at this end time.
We need to put some security in measure so that to protect the properties of God and the people of God.
You don't just take things for granted. Say because of a pastor, you are in the church, you are serving God, then you just take things for granted.
Pastors were advised to be spiritually and physically sensitive to the environments, scan and check worshippers thoroughly before admittance into churches, the use of CCTV cameras, and regular training for members on how to detect uninvited guests, among others.
You must secure the flock of God under your leadership. That's what they must take away. And if you don't have knowledge, there's no way you can secure anybody.
The times are unusual, and in addition to what the security agencies are doing, everyone, whether he is in church or outside, should be conscious of his environment to the extent that he can be safe and others around him can be safe.
Measure that can checkmate any threat to security.
The pastors have to take this message back home and teach their audience, and even in their home they should teach about security.
Pastors were also advised to get the full numbers and be familiar with DPOs and other head of security agencies in their areas of jurisdictions. In Abuja, Thomas Obetere, NTA News.
This is a pathetic story of Hawa in her 40s, rescued after spending 8 years in solitary confinement, meted out by her biological mother around Saminaka community of Kaduna State. And if you're wondering what have gone wrong in all this, here's Mohammed Haruna with the details.
She's spiritually possessed, and to many cultural beliefs, this is an aberration and burden. Most victims risk being condemned to inhuman treatment and isolation. This is what Hawanu suffered for 8 years under the watch of her family members. They appear to be the triumph of evil, as neighbors in the area appear helpless and unwilling to talk about it for many years.
Actually, what disturbs us, and for me in particular, is neighbors are aware that such thing is happening, but they are also afraid to report, which is actually not acceptable as well.
Lack of care and associated psychological trauma and deprivation worsened Hawa's situation.
At first to traditional healers, and since then, no improvement.
However, officials of Kaduna State Government and Command of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, acting on credible intelligence, stormed Ngwamba community close to Saminaka and rescued the victim.
They were doing the traditional medicine, and her condition never improved. So I believe that if you're truly a mother, for you to subject your own child, and we also learned that she has 5 children, I think it is really actually very wrong. And this is something that Kaduna State government will never accept.
Hawanu is receiving medical attention at Barna Psychiatric Hospital, Kaduna, and what may follow will be the focus for subsequent reports.
This News at 10 is reaching you live on NTA News 24. More reports when we return. Many thanks for staying tuned with the news at 10, reaching you live on NTA News 24. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Nasiru Babali Ila as the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, House of Representatives. A statement by Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity indicates that Nasiru, a product of Victory College, Alexandra and West London College, United Kingdom, was a successful businessman with interest in haulage, joinery and tannery before his foray into politics. In 2011 and 2015, he was voted into the lower chamber of the National Assembly as a member representing Taurani Federal Constituency in Kano. The chartered member of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, and replaces Umar Ibrahim El Yakub, who has been appointed minister by the President. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has expressed his deep gratitude to Nigerians and everyone following his recent successful surgery. The Vice President appreciated the get well wishes and prayers for his quick recovery from Nigerians. The Vice President also sent special appreciation to the team of surgeons, doctors, nurses and physiotherapists and the management of the Duchess International Hospital, Lagos, for providing excellent care. It will be recalled that the Vice President underwent a surgical operation on Saturday, July 16 at the Duchess International Hospital, Ikeja, Lagos. In other news, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has indicated that President Biden's administration's goal is to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth and development across Africa, to expand capital flows and promote the vibrant spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation that is so prevalent across the continent. This was at the just concluded U.S. Africa Business Summit held in Marrakesh, Morocco, where she emphasized the importance of boosting relations with the African continent. Let's join Justin Benwini for details of this report.
Can unleash growth and opportunity that far exceeds what either the public or private sector can achieve on its own. And as everyone here knows, there is so much opportunity for economic growth in Africa and, of course, in the United States when we collaborate and coordinate. Africa is the world's fastest growing continent. By 2030, the continent will have 1.7 billion people, home to 1/5 of the world's population.
Our President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has given strong assurance to U.S. investors that Africa is a secure, competitive, and profitable market for investment. Adesina was speaking at the U.S.-Africa Business Summit in Marrakesh, where he told American investors to see Africa as a logical investment destination and to engage with the continent in win-win partnerships. Justin Benwini reports.
Africa is ready. The U.S. is ready. Let us turn conversations into commitments. Let us turn commitments into investments. Let us build forward together.
More than 400 business and government representatives hinged discussions on building stronger U.S. and Africa trade, investment and commercial ties as the U.S. Corporate Council on Africa partnered with Morocco to organize the summit under the theme Building Forward Together. The event that brought together global investors and corporate executives as well as global leaders presented an opportunity for the African Development Bank's head to bear his mind that despite the disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on economies, the number of private equity deals in Africa increased from 230 in 2019 to 255 by 2020, stressing that even in turbulent times, opportunities still abound in Africa.
Africa, ladies and gentlemen, therefore offers a very profitable investment destination. Savvy investors know if you're not invested in Africa, you are really missing out on the world. A lot of attention to Africa. The number of private equity funds in Africa grew from only 12 in 1997 to 150 by 2020. I am very positive about Africa's investment opportunities, and so should you. I really believe that this is the time for U.S. investors to rapidly move and invest massively in Africa. There's always a first mover advantage, and opportunities wait for no one.
The AFDB president invited American businesses to invest in the opportunities created by the African Development Bank Group's $1.5 billion African Emergency Food Production Facility designed to ease the impact of the current global food crisis worsened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
It is time to refresh, re-engage, and reinvest in Africa. And as you do, let me just say it's important to base investment decisions in Africa on facts, not fiction or perceptions. Perception is not reality.
Justin Benwini, NTA News.
The Nigerian Export Promotion Council has commenced talks with ambassadors and consulates towards seamless market access as the council takes its export for survival drive into international markets. Now, they are also doing that and interacting with development.
As a result of rising inflation, dwindling oil revenues, and the war between Russia and Ukraine have compelled countries to develop various response measures to revive and sustain their economies. Nigeria, in response to these challenges, is diversifying its economy to keep up with the global economic realities by expanding Nigerian trade and brands to international markets and West African countries. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council, one of the key drivers of non-oil export, is interacting with ambassadors, consuls of embassies, and development partners towards bridging trade gaps in the sub-region.
more trade with foreign countries, more forex, more stability of the naira.
These efforts of the Nigerian government to reinvigorate the non-oil sector and the country's economy are seen as timely and commendable.
Economy, trade, investment should be not only the main objective of diplomacy, but the main objective of all the states, the governments should go there.
We will continue to create opportunities and also ensure that we are providing the rights and appropriate response inventors.
We are hoping that in the near future, we will be able to include South African exporters in one of these events, because South Africa and Nigeria are already working together in quite a number of areas that seek to bring social cohesion between the people of both countries.
The NEPC is also leveraging on opportunities in the AfCFTA to grow the country's foreign exchange earnings and access to international markets. In Abuja, Comfort Amadu, NTA News.
And also, financial experts applaud government's renewed efforts to grow the country's economy on a competitive basis, while recommending ways to develop Nigerians' value chain in the manufacturing sector. Details on Business News.
The idea is to be able to address the needs to grow the economy on a competitive basis. So each segment of the society or each zone of the society has some strengths.
The strategic policy stance by the government to increase the country's foreign exchange earnings and participation in intra-African trade and global markets is focused on the non-oil sector of the country.
It's better than Chinese wire and cable. So if we were to take Gambia, for example, as a market to explore, with that kind of industrial product, of course you can be sure. If there are free funds that we can use to either support our production line, our raw material supply strategy, our financial engineering management system, I mean, these are things that must, come into play. And then our logistics, which speaks about infrastructure, having good roads and all of that.
So what we got to do is to go back to the drawing board, get things working, let those in authority know, even in the university.
Nigeria is fast becoming a highway for global brands in international markets and for ease of doing business.
The need for deconcentration of powers at the federal level, especially economic, has again been re-echoed by the academia, arguing that this will pave way for states to harness resources in their domains for rapid economic development. This was at the 2022 Hyperdebt University and British American Business School annual lectures and investitures held in Abuja. Joseph Otsen was there.
It is an academic atmosphere and many here will be inducted and honored with awards. But before then, the congregation will be lectured on the state of the nation as captured in a book titled Which Way Nigeria? The Destiny of Nigeria in a Three-Dimension Universe, written by Chancellor British American Business School, Professor Paul Godwin. The advertise the challenges befalling the nation to the country's neglect of its diverse resources.
The state of Nigeria should be allowed to manage their resources and pay tax to the central government, to the federal government. This will allow the states to look within.
The only way forward is to revamp the non-oil and gas sector by bringing in the revenue proceeds from the oil and gas sector to activate other sectors.
I believe that Nigeria as a trigger will be ultimately pushed, and it will unleash the potential of Africa. We must pressure our government to introduce religious tolerance
It is a call, it is a plea for Nigerians youth that they should wake up, carry their vote with conscience and
After the lecture, which harped on innovation and creativity as the way out to dwindling economy, then came time for the investiture and presentation of honorary doctorate awards to 53 persons and research fellows of the institution.
This is a historic event and we will carry on providing trainees.
The moment we start being godly and not being religious, we are going to have a nation that works.
Distinguished personalities were presented with awards at the occasion, including President Muhammadu Buhari, who bagged an award of excellent performance in agricultural transformation and sustainability. In Abuja, Joseph Utsen, NTA News.
And we'll take a break. We have more reports when we return. Don't go away. Excellence is the true identity of a Nigerian. It is further made clear when the aggregate is zeroed on the younger generation who from birth are always revered as bundles of joy to the parents and the nation. Well, this accolades and national pride is contained in this package by Anthony Fawcett.
The message is clear.